I list my little raised ranch. People are out there bidding. I personally think it would be worse. The problem is you have a product in short supply, and emotions are going to come into play either way. But if you had an open auction and you were actually seeing the numbers, like you just said, I think people would go higher than they would in a closed auction.
How many scenarios have you been in where you're like, I would have paid $5,000 more. I would have paid 10 more if I would have known. I do know, and this kind of, I guess, translates into or segues into our next comment here. But for example, 10X is an auction house that's owned by CoStar, and in like LoopNet and apartments.com and all that stuff. It's all the same company. But I have talked to a couple agents that have mentioned before all of this going on now, 10X was used for like dilapidated properties, stuff that was like in bankruptcy or foreclosure or whatever. And it was more for like the larger scale real estate. Now people are purposely listing their properties, like their large scale multi-res on 10X because they're getting more money because it's an open auction. So this segues into our next debate here of would an open auction house in Canada produce
would it
higher
slow the market?
Would it slow the market? Would it produce higher values? Would it produce lower values? What would it do?
Are these low prices and bidding wars driven by the low prices? Are they the problem?
Yeah.
And people think that they are. In my personal opinion, if you went to an open auction style where everybody's just out there like they have it in Australia, you're just, I list my little raised ranch, people are out there bidding. I personally think it would be worse.
Well, have you looked into it?
No.
If it is worse or not?
No, but I know Australia has some really expensive prices, like real estate.
So one of the things that when we were talking before this podcast that you mentioned is how many scenarios have you been in where you're like, I would have paid $5,000 more. I would have paid 10 more if I would have known. If I would have known. I know I've been in that scenario more than a dozen times.
Yeah, 100%.
So if I would have known, what was going on behind the scenes, I may have very well driven the price up.
You may have come in with what you thought was a really good offer.
Yeah.
Let's say it's listed at $199. You come in at $390.
Yeah.
And somebody offers $397, but you thought $390 was going to be a win, right? You got to draw your line somewhere.
Yeah.
But then you see it sold for $397. You might say, frick, I would have paid $400 for that. Like I thought $390 was a win, but I know it's worth that. Like,
yeah. And here's the thing too, when you're watching those numbers increase, the emotions that overcome you are like significant. Have you ever been on eBay and you really wanted something?
Yeah.
Right, Jesse? I know you do that. So on eBay, like it's the same thing, right? Like eBay, you can watch that like skyrocket, right?
Especially when it's a product in high demand, right? Which right now real estate happens to be, right? If this was a balanced market, I think open auctions would be fine, but I think also just normally pricing would be fine as well. The problem is you have a product in short supply, and emotions are going to come into play either way. But if you had an open auction and you were actually seeing the numbers, like you just said, I think people would go higher than they would in a closed auction, because sometimes I'm putting in offers that I think are going to win, or I think we're going to be top 2 or 3 and we're just not.
Yeah.
But it's not because we wouldn't pay more. It's because we don't know.
Yeah.
So we're drawing our line somewhere. We're going off the comps. We're going off the income or whatever the case is. We're drawing our line. We're saying, okay, this is a good shot. And we would have maybe went $5 or $10 grand more, especially if we're watching it.
I know.